Welcome to Keepers of the Word, the Mystic Lantern book series, part 2 of Occult America by Mitch Horowitz. You want to start us off with, where are we at? We're at chapter 7.
Chapter 7, The Return of the Secret Teachings. And this is probably my favorite chapter out of this whole book because it goes into Manly P. Hall.
Manly P. Hall, you
Theosophy, Theosophy, New Thought, fresh attention to occult philosophy. He gave birth to this huge tome that you all know as Secret Teachings of All Ages.
The encyclopedia of...
It's actually called Encyclopedic Outline of Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Symbolical Philosophy.
Yep.
That is a mouthful.
That's a lot.
I'm glad they changed it to Secret
Teachings, right?
And he published that at the young age of 27. Wow.
He was very young.
What was it, an 8th grade education?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was self-taught.
No, I get that. But I mean, his official training as far as an education was concerned was 8th grade schoolhouse or something like that. So, I mean, he was getting info from somewhere, somehow.
From somewhere.
So going into his life and seeing how he came, he wanted to go out and find what all of this really was and take the long route to everything, which I found interesting because all the people at that time weren't doing that.
No one was.
Nobody was going out to India or taking off to...
Well, there were people who were doing that. They just weren't bringing anything back to have it so open like how they had it.
Well, the other thing was that so much of the material that these people were dealing with, whether it was material that they were creating or material that they were using, was being regurgitated. It would be, I'm like the 3 Initiates was given as that it was an ancient book, but it was just something that was written during, a certain time, and it was being regurgitated. And that was, I think, what struck me the strongest from Mitch's perspective on Manly P. Hall was this was the first tome of legitimate, actual, studied, like every chapter in there that has something about whether it's Rosicrucians or whether it's Theosophy or whatever. Masonry was well written out and well thought out and well studied. And it was not a regurgitation of other stuff that had been out. So this was like it is an encyclopedia. It's an encyclopedia of all of this new thoughts and the occult in America.
So he erected PRS in 34.
Yes.
But became a Mason in 54.
So, he waited a while.
Yeah.
He hung out with a lot of Rosicrucians, Freemasons throughout the whole time.
And towards the end where you see that, I didn't write down his name, but there was a guy who befriended him.
Yeah.
Him and his son?
Yeah.
Those are the names that I don't like to even speak about.
And just took him for a ride, which is messed up, but yeah, it's something else.
It's unfortunate. I mean, he had such a fortitude of thought his whole life, then to get to the end and be,
taking advantage.
Clearly had to been going through some form of mental degradation. Just
there's a lot of theories behind what those two were doing and why he needed to see them so often throughout the week.
Next, we're going into the next chapter, New Deal of the Ages, which focuses on Henry A. Wallace, Secretary of Agriculture from 1940. And I believe he was he did something else with the government. I know he was a VP.
He was going to be chosen as Roosevelt's VP.
Yeah. And wasn't
the letters.
there was some
rumors.
He was an interesting cat that believed in a lot of fringe stuff at the time. He was very into the occult and
he was called weird for that, right?
He was
a weird theosophist. James, Theosophy.
Theosophy. You're talking about H.P. Blavatsky?
Yes.
Madame Blavatsky. So she, Theosophy, she came from traveling around the world. Then she heard about all the fun stuff happening in the burned over district. Came straight to America, hung out over there with a bunch of progressive religious people and their open views. I mean, she was able to literally walk in and already know these different viewpoints of these different groups and sects, and be able to get in and talk with them and give lectures and stuff like that, and build in America the Theosophical movement.
Well, not only in America, I mean, apparently she had a major influence in India. If I remember, they said that it was one of the top 3 religions that she influenced.
Yes.
In India, yes, behind Buddhism and
with Alcott.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Alcott, Leadbeater. You get all these other individuals that came after her, during her, helped her with that.
But isn't the Theosophical Society still around today? Don't they have lectures and do like a weekly?
They do in certain spots. You have, I believe it's in Pasadena.
Yeah, there's a church in Pasadena. Or
it's what's left.
Okay.
So it's their library. That's why I went for my birthday. I treated myself and went down. I'm a big HP Blavatsky fan. She was wrong about a lot of things, but so progressive in a lot of the stuff. You know, she was wrong about this scientific information that was out during her age. It was correct at the time, which we now know is wrong for certain things. But what she was pushing was very progressive. A lot of people say a lot of the stuff that she was talking about is now coming true now. But I went down there for my birthday to go check out their stuff. Their library is amazing.
Well, going back to Wallace, he also spent time with the Native American tribe, the Onondaga, in the Burnt Over district. So he studied with them and I guess learned their ways. He was really into spiritualism and philosophy, So next is an introduction of Nicholas Roerich, which this part stood out, and I don't know if this treaty or pact, which is called the Roerich Pact of 35, the worldwide treaty protecting cultural artifacts and sites to be protected during war by hanging a three-ring flag above to let bombers know that, hey, this is a historical site.
It's a World Heritage
Don't
site,
tear it
basically.
Up. Yeah. So that pact alone caught my attention because we know it didn't happen.
No.
Right? And World War II came and it was just bombs away.
Yeah.
Well, to speak on that specifically, you had individuals, the Nazis, knew this. So they would specifically use churches and stuff like that for anti-air guns and batteries and stuff like that. And they would take the high ground. A lot of the high ground were churches. So they were built like fortifications. So they would take that high ground and bomb the Americans and rain down artillery shells from there.
He was described as this pale Russian who dressed like a mystic and sported a Fu Manchu-like beard and stash.
His stash was pretty out there.
Yeah, so Wallace was known for writing letters that sounded like D&D scenarios, and that's what got out.
That's
called Dear Guru. And, people were just not happy with that.
The takeaway I got from it, though, was that being made the position that he was put into in agriculture, the administrator of the agriculture or whatever, I forget what the term was that he was made, but he affected a lot of policies and good things as far as farming's concerned for the country in general while he was in his position in the office. So that was the takeaway I got, that even regardless of how Roosevelt viewed him and whether he was going to be vice president or not, right. I mean, he still, with his mentality of the esoterics that he believed in, he used it, for planting and essentially kind of the almanac type of situation.
Right. He used that to his benefit,
and it affected a lot of policy as well for future of farming. And
we also can refer to the eye of the Great Seal, the eye in the pyramid, the Great Seal of the United States.
Yep.
And also Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, which it's translatable to New Deal of the Ages. So your dollar bill, this is where it came from.
And it wasn't always on there.
No,
It was
wasn't.
not.
No.
It was only documents that were White House documents, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any pact or deal, that seal had to go on.
It had to be
Yeah.
on there.
I
Yeah.
think it's still there to this day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is the seal of
It's
America.
the Great Seal.
Yep.
So Roosevelt at the time was a Freemason and not uncomfortable with these types of symbols. Treasurer Henry Mortontow was very displeased. Didn't like it at all. Thought it was just poppycock.
Too much hocus
And
pocus.
too much hocus pocus.
We've
and-
known people like that
Yeah.
before, haven't we?
Have we?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Anyways.
So now going into Masters Among Us, this is another topic that really caught my just that alone, the title, Masters Among Us. Unity Metaphysical Center of Helena, Montana, Bayard T. Spalding, Life and Teachings of the Far East. He got everybody over there wanting to learn more about what was going on in the Himalayas. I believe there's this teacher named Ruth E. Chu, doyen of the metaphysical, and had received Spalding's personal blessing to cover it in a lecture. Preaching a gospel of love, self-realization, immortals dwelling in the Himalayas. Seed of Christ consciousness dwelling within us. So this is where we're going into the hidden adepts in the Far East, Tibet, Himalayan area, where Christ spent his lost years learning.
That was interesting to me because I've heard that before. I've heard people talk about the concept that Christ during his years spent time away and traveled and may have been studying under some guru or something like that. I did not know that it came from someone that wrote that during this time in America,
I think he pointed it out. He pointed that out, and then
So there's some scripture
Exactly.
at a monastery of a gentleman that they found on one of their roads that they took him. I believe his name was Isa. I think that's what they called him. I believe so. I could be wrong. But they took him in, and he lived there for quite some time and wanted to go back home. So when he came back home, that's why the doctrine was so different with his teachings. So some interesting little things there. It's not really been proven, but
obviously.
yeah.
But it's an interesting topic because if you're thinking about it, in Christianity, Jesus is missing for a certain specific amount of time, right? And you think about the encounters, Melchizedek, he was of the order of Melchizedek, which were Essenes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then you think about John the Baptist, who was also of that order. And when he sees him, he recognizes him right away. It's like, hey, there's the player from the Himalayas. He's like, what's up?
I'm sure it was very
What's going on? They
Very
gave a
similar to
secret
that.
handshake. So it's just, and then Jesus, preaching, doing his thing,
It's
teaching.
very different than a lot of the doctrines that were going out at that time.
That's why if you really go into the gospel of, any of those books, it sounds very Buddhist.
It does, because
You
it's
know, you
about
think about-
love
yeah,
and
it's-
caring for everybody.
It's a completely different outlook than the Old Testament, where it's just
It's thugs.
stone them in the head.
Yep.
Okay, fine.
Yep.
It changes the perspective, right? So, in my opinion, that kind of where he comes back and he teaches how to really live and how to really love. And I think in this day and age, we need to get back to that because no matter what you believe, I'm just saying, focus on that Christ consciousness, man, because it's definitely needed.
Well, the overtones of that are in so much of the metaphysical studies and so much of all of the chapters that we've gone over so far. I mean, every single, it's these groups of people that have some type of religious background, but have this just preaching love and truly caring for your fellow human and wanting to do good things. And that's why I think that it spills over, especially in this chapter talking so much about politics. I mean, that's why it spills over into politics, because these are progressive thinkers that want the whole of the group to be able to benefit from things in general and just, care for each other. We should do things like this because it's right, because it helps our fellow man.
Exactly.
It's kind.
Correct. And there was nothing wrong with learning that. It's I don't know. It's weird. So the whole thing of hidden adepts in the Himalayas, these immortal teachers, these Mahatmas.
This is where you get the cliche version,
Right.
where the guy's climbing the mountain and reaches, finally seeing somebody just sitting up there.
There's a guy there floating,
Yeah. Oh, I gotta ask you, what's the question of life? What's the answer of life? And
did you bring a parachute?
Right.
Yeah, man, that tripped me out. So all this was said, he preached all these things, but Spalding had not traveled farther than upstate New York. That's as far as he went. He
didn't like getting out.
He never went out there and,
he
checked
said he
for
didn't
himself.
need to. He's, he didn't care for that.
I don't know, man.
Certainly seems like maybe he's making a lot more shit up.
Right. Like something's a little
than he's
fishy,
actually getting good source for his teachings, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe he borrowed it from somewhere. Could I'm just saying,
It's
could have been.
possible. I mean, if we go into the references in the back of the book, I'm pretty sure that we're going to find where
There's a ton of
Oh
references.
man, he did his homework.
So like
He did a
the
lot of
references alone,
It's
just
a
going
chapter
over
itself,
it,
man.
it's like it's not even a chapter. Like you can spend years reading these books that he's pulling from. The Native American stuff alone, like I love that stuff. There's so much of Native American stuff in these religions and concepts that we don't really see or talk about that much.
Correct.
Good
And
stuff.
I think that's one that people don't really dive into, the Native American.
Even Freemasonry, there's similarities between.
Can you
Yeah,
get into that?
Manly P. Hall talks about it in Secret Teachings of All Ages, the Longhouse, stuff like that, the lodge room, the setup, how it goes. That was a specific tribe.
I see the teachings of Masonry in so many of these movements that we're reading about in this book. It's just another.
Yeah.
The only difference is that we say that we leave the religion out of it. So it's just more of the metaphysicals behind it. My perspective. Whatever it's worth. 2 cents.
It's a big ocean. You have a ripple, and that ripple goes through many different things and takes what they like and then leaves out what they don't like. So that's why we see this reverberation of different things throughout many different religions or progressive, ideologies.
Thought movements, yeah.
Going into the Black Magicians, Guy and Edna Ballard, 1930s movement, the mighty I Am. What stood out to me was this. I think Guy Ballard was hiking in Mount Shasta and came across Count Saint Germain. That in itself, he was just walking around Shasta.
I mean, Shasta's...
Hey,
Yeah.
I know you.
I hear Shasta's an interesting place.
Yeah.
Shasta's pretty.
Wasn't Beyond Lemuria?
Beyond
Didn't they go
Lemuria,
up there?
Beyond Lemuria.
Poke and Merrick and Lon all went up there and filmed.
That is an
Lemuria.
interesting movie, and
I loved it.
it's
a very long movie.
Yeah.
It's very long, but it's really cool to see what they are putting in there. Is very eye-opening for a person like myself that has maybe a background in that. I was very shocked to see how much that they showed in there. So the average viewer is like, well, man, yeah, like, whatever, that's crazy.
But for somebody who's trained in that,
Oh man, there's so much
There's a
in
lot
there.
going on,
There's
right?
a lot going in there.
So let's talk about that real quick, just so that way people can understand. Count Saint Germain, Europe, Count Rakosi.
Yeah, this guy that's been around for a while.
Who he was, but even earlier than that, counts where he recites things that happened around Jesus' time, like he was there.
Mm-hmm.
He's appeared to numerous lodges, years apart, but looks the same. Never eats anything in front of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds kind of like a vampire, doesn't it?
Sounds
Yeah.
a little vampy.
There's quite a bit of theories surrounding him and
Dorian
why,
Gray.
why he's
Yeah.
throughout the ages. You do have, when you have a master and an adept, that adept is literally being trained to accept the charge from mouth to ear of the teaching for that person to literally become him upon his death. So a lot of times you have somebody by the name of, whatever name, John, and then John lives this great lengthy life and goes around teaching. He has an adept, and that adept lives with him. He's there every day, 24/7, picks up mannerisms.
Takes over.
Literally takes
his
over
job when the guy dies.
and attempts to look like him.
Yeah.
So he's there and he knows these memories of, eating with you last, 4 Christmases ago because that adept was there. And those little conversations, they actually learn
Or
that.
it's been passed down.
It's been passed
These are
down.
the stories. So that's
Right.
So basically, it's a lineage.
It's a lineage,
It's a
yeah.
lineage.
Right. That's one of the theories. Like, granted, I mean,
That's an interesting.
we weren't there. We
Right.
don't know that. But
Shasta,
Well, and if you-
hidden tunnels, Lemuria, I get
I'm
it.
not even talking
If you
tunnels, man.
if you think about magic,
Scary place.
like practicing magic being a lineage as well, it's a magical kind of
Yes.
situation. So
that is
that's
100%
good theory.
a lineage.
The scary stuff.
What's scary stuff? Scary stuff?
Scary stuff? Do
For-
you
oh,
know
what,
of
Shasta?
Shasta? You said you didn't want to go there.
No,
Why?
there throughout the years, the ages since we've known Mount Shasta, there are some places, specifically mountains, where you have the indigenous tribes or peoples that live there. You have these names that are given to mountains, like, for example, Death Mountain. And they want to describe the mountain, and they gave the name not like, the beautiful flowery mountain. No, it's Death Mountain.
That's what
Don't
Shasta
go
is.
there. Mount Shasta is one of those when you have the indigenous tribes, they have their stories about it, and usually they didn't like to really go there that much for
weird shit
nefarious things that would happen there, or just the people that never came back.
Well, have you seen Beyond Lemuria? Whoa.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There's
So,
some weird stuff
you have
going
a lot
on
of stuff
there.
in Mount
Yeah.
Shasta where you have a lot of people, even to this day, the people who vanish. They just find their cars and no trace whatsoever. They don't know where they
Long-term
went.
stuff, man.
Yeah. You have little spots where the hikers go, and there's these boards where they leave their name. I was here on June 13th, whatever the date is. And then the next one, they're at intervals on the hike, and there's just nothing left. And there's a lot of theories. You could just
Bears walk up.
bears eat
all right,
you.
yeah.
Cool, you're
I'm gonna go for that one.
good. A serial killer, but it's been going on for so long, for more than decades, that it's not one person. So who knows? I just know there's a. I would never go hiking by myself.
Wasn't there vortexes up there too?
There's vortexes.
Okay.
People talk about
I can
portals,
tell you,
UFOs.
I was just in Sedona for the first time and had a chance to experience vortexes, and that's
amazing.
That's a bizarre feeling. I mean, immediately getting sick to your stomach and starting to feel lightheaded, and there's no legitimate explanation for why it's
Right.
happening other than there's an energy there.
It's an
There's
energy,
some
a
kind of
magnetic
energy.
place.
Whatever it's
right.
whatever it is. I mean, magnetic or
Yeah.
alien or what. Oh,
It's
did
natural.
you say aliens?
I believe it's natural phenomenon.
It
natural
is, but
sciences.
the interesting thing was that while we were exploring those vortexes, and I know I'm going a little off topic
go
here,
ahead.
but
Vortex it.
When we were
Vortex it.
when we were
Womp,
exploring
womp.
those vortexes, I knew that from doing the research that there were some masculine and some feminine, and I found that where I got uncomfortable was in the masculine vortex locations. Where I felt really, really comfortable was feminine. The last vortex we went to was right along a river at like Red Rock Canyon or something like that, I think was the spot. It might not be the name, but anyways, it's right along a river, and we're trying to get close to the spot. I'm trying to feel the energy, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling anything, but I was like, okay. And I just sat down next to the water. I sat down next to the water to listen to because the water was flowing. You could hear the trickle, that peaceful sound of water flowing. It was a little tree, and it was sunny, so I had a little bit of shade. I just felt really comfortable, really, really good. And my wife goes, babe, look, pointed to a spot across the river, and there was a tree that was so twisted and wrapped up, and she goes, we are right on the spot. And I told her, do me a favor and look and see if this is a feminine or masculine spot, because I can guarantee you it's feminine. And she looks and gets her guide, and she goes, yeah, it's a feminine spot. I said, I knew it. I don't know why, but the divine feminine energy I feel way more comfortable with than the masculine.
These are definitely magical.
I don't know.
Magical places.
It is for
You
sure,
know?
for sure.
Yes.
My encounters in Joshua Tree with them, and medicine wheels, and different techniques that are used for those vortexes. Like you said, they're different,
Yeah.
and some are used for different various things. You have the medicine ones. You have the wishing walk ones, where you have the prayer ones, the prayer wheels, and stuff like that.
We're literally talking about the evolution of Occult America right now.
This is amazing, right?
So,
And back.
moving
And
on.
we're back.
Secrets for Sale. Occult rebel Paul Foster Cayce, born in 1884 in the Burnt Over district.
Again,
At some point, his mother passed away, and then his dad was like, well, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to move, and it's time for you to start pulling your own weight, so take care of yourself,
man.
which I thought was kind of messed up, but whatever. Worked as a pianist and did card tricks. Claude Bragdon, a friend of Manly P. Hall, asked him a pivotal question. Where did he suppose ordinary playing cards came from? This led him to the tarot. One day, a messenger came to him and said, you're at a crossroads. You have to choose between a life devoted to the stage or a path devoted to the occult. And he told him one's going to be easy, one's going to be hard.
which one?
The path of the occult he took, and it was tough, but he did it.
It's not an easy path.
No. So this path that he took led him down, made him stay in Chicago, and he was there in Chicago with people like Emma Curtis and William Walker Atkinson, who is technically the writer of the Kybalion. Cayce was implied as being one of the initiates in the Kybalion, but was never really confirmed. So I believe, I think his name is Cheminsky. I don't want to mess up his name, but there was a guy who talked about this at a lecture, and he pretty much studied the Kybalion, and he took all of the writings and compared their writing styles, and they were all technically the same. So it was pretty much William Walker Atkinson who wrote it all. And yes, Mitch does have a breakdown of the Kybalion coming out soon.
That'll
so
be
get
cool to
ready
check
for
out.
that. We would love to
for
check
sure.
that one
Yeah,
out,
have to
and
check
maybe
that
do
one
a
out.
show on that one too.
Maybe
I
that'll
don't
be
know.
one of our
Yeah,
other ones coming up.
I'm down with that. Let's see.
Did he really have a great grasping concept of the tarot, though? I
don't
mean,
know, man. Tell me. What do you think?
It seemed like like a lot of the other regurgitators of the time, it certainly seemed like he wanted to pull it more towards a more ancient thing, like Egypt or something. Egypt,
Correct.
the 1800s, because of the opening of the pyramid and Tutankhamun and all the
Tombs,
stuff
all the
that was
tombs.
collected. It was just
The theft
so
of Egypt.
many people were enamored with Egypt. Egypt is the ancient spot where all of the knowledge has come from. So everyone was trying to connect everything with Egypt. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the tarot to really know, but I caught that
Right.
in the discussion that of that chapter.
Well, later on, he's known for joining the Golden Dawn, and I believe at the time Mathers, who was the leader at the time, passed away, and his wife Moina took over, but didn't have the same following Mathers did, and didn't have the same resolve and rhetoric. As Paul Cayce rose up the ranks, Moina took notice and became very jealous, expelled him in 22. Cayce then launched his own school because he considered that a blessing. He's like, I don't think we need to hide all this knowledge and not give it to the public. You know, I think, we need to share this.
Yeah.
These are the secrets for sale, right? Cayce then launched a new school of wisdom called Builders of the Adytum, which means inner temple in Greek.
Mm-hmm. BOTA.
Yeah. What about Mathers? I mean, what can you tell us about that?
Gregor Mathers.
Yeah.
Really cool guy.
First time I heard about Mathers was on the episode of Midnight Gospel.
Midnight Gospel. Duncan Trussell? Yeah.
The episode where
It's a great show.
talking about high magic and
Yeah.
So you can't really talk about magic or any treaties on magic without bringing up Mathers or all the other major guys that were around at that time. He was a pivotal influencer at the time. I mean, you have the OTA coming out of him when they had the little civil war between him and Mr. Crowley. So this guy knew his stuff. He really laid down the rules and regulations and he was a major founder for the occult coming out of England. He was huge.
Well, let's move on.
Moving on,
James. Greatest mystic who ever lived, Edgar Cayce.
Man.
Sleeping prophet.
Right. And
I like this guy.
I've always seen his quotes, pictures, things like that, but I never really dove into who he was until I got this. I was impressed.
He's very impressive.
Especially getting towards the end of the chapters. That really impressed me a lot. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Edgar Cayce, a reputed miracle worker living in Virginia Beach, was able to go into sleep-like trance and diagnose and prescribe cures for the ill and also advise psychic counsel. So what is your opinions on Edgar?
So I've read, I liked the guy. I started reading up on him probably in like junior high. And then I found that there was a lot of stuff to try to disprove him, which I found pretty cool. So I wanted to read their viewpoints. He just did a lot of things that would be hard for him to attain the information, the time period he was in, the locale he was in.
That seemed to be the gist that I got from it, was that the information that he would have was just
how would he receive that?
Yeah, how could he have known that seemed to be like the question always.
Well, I have a little bit of background on that. When in his younger years, he told his father, "Can you buy the house a Bible?" And he started reading it.
Right.
And
memorized it.
Yeah. After he finished reading it, he sat it and he knelt at the end of his bed before he went to sleep. And I believe he asked God and prayed for the ability to help people.
And understanding.
A light filled his room, and a feminine apparition came to him and said, "Thy prayers are heard. You have your wish. Remain faithful, be true to yourself, and help the sick and afflicted." Now, he made money by doing readings and going into this sleep-like trance
on his couch,
but he never turned anyone away. He said, "Just give me what you can,"
mm-hmm.
because he was
Some people would bring food.
living this.
His statement that I believe I remember reading in the book was that if the help that I'm providing is real, is truly of God, it's priceless. And if it's not, it's worthless. So pay what you can.
The guy was he was super cool. And so basically, if somebody would come to him and they were poor and they baked him a pie, he was like, that is a lot for you that you're giving to me. And he would accept a pie, like food. A lot of the time, people would bring food. He would help a lot of the poor. And then you had all these people who would come in who had buku money and stuff and try to get stock market stuff. And he didn't want to do that. I heard a few things, too, where people would basically ask, oh, I want this to help my daughter. She's so sick, how to heal. And while he would be asleep, they would ask for stock market numbers to try to bamboozle him, you know. And from this, he would get sick. I found that to be really interesting when you read some of his memoirs and stuff like that. He would get sick from people trying to get other information that wasn't on really helping anybody, but to get a one-up on somebody else or something like that.
Well, he found his power for trance readings in 1901 when, stricken with laryngitis, he entered a hypnotic state and diagnosed his own illness. Later took that gift and provided folk remedies and nature remedies and conventional treatments.
Homeopathic and
hundreds of people, and he took care of them. So this interesting character comes in, Arthur Lammers. Wanted Cayce to probe more. Afterlife, is there a soul? Cayce said he was able to access the Akashic records, which are sacred Hindu writings, popularized by Blavatsky. Akashic records, James.
So this is kind of, if I had to relate it to something, people talk about like the world soul type of thing. Like when we die, our souls will kind of go into one and then come back. At least that's what the theory is. This is kind of like a world consciousness to where, you know, we think all these and we come up with answers and they kind of go into a universal data bank. And the theory goes that some people can pull from this and pull information from this. Fun fact, I forget who did the study. It was some university did a study on this. Can we prove this? How can we prove this? So they did, what are they called? Word puzzles, right? On the back of like TV Guide. Do you guys remember TV Guide?
Crossword puzzles.
Crossword puzzles.
Okay.
So they took crossword puzzles that they made brand new, that there were no answers out there yet. They put them out to all these people, you know, a certain amount of people. They did them all. They came back. They had a harder time doing it, this and that. Then they did old crossword puzzles. People got them like that, really easy. And they did this over and over and over. And what they found was the ones that were old, that were already out there, although these people weren't getting, there was no phones back then from the Google, that it was easier for them to get it. The timing was easier, that they said it would just kind of come to them, that they felt like they knew it, versus the ones that weren't out there.
That's really deep, because I mean there's some schools of thought that believe that thought is the first. Ideas and thought actually has consciousness. I mean,
Right.
we are, it's the beginning of creation is the thought. Nothing, you know, this guy here is sitting in front of us because someone thought about an idea of how to create it and then pulled whatever materials to be able to make it. So those thoughts are out there in the ether, wherever,
Right.
somewhere. So if someone has some kind of psychic ability, or we all have a psychic ability to be able to do this, but someone has theirs more tuned into
Right.
that frequency.
It's easier for them to pull that. We learned that in Lon Duquette's Kabbalah class that we took, his lecture.
Oh, yeah?
That was amazing. Yeah, he said that basically anything that you start with has to start inside. You manifest it first in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, how do I get to that? Well, I need this, I need this, I need that. And then how do I want it to look? Well, I want to look like this. It's all imagined in your brain. Then when you follow the steps that come to fruition of the actual object coming, that's what magic is. You know, you start first in your head. The magic is making it appear. You just don't clap your hands 3 times and something appears out of nothing. Everything comes from something.
Yeah.
Yes, a chair started with the thought, my legs are tired, right? So
Exactly.
my legs are tired. I need somewhere to fit. I need somewhere to sit, you know?
Provide a need.
Right.
Yeah.
Sell me this
Right.
pain.
There's something there that's bothering you or you encounter it so much. Is there a way to make this better? You know?
Correctamundo. So in 25, he relocated to Virginia Beach, where he opened the Hospital of Enlightenment, where he gave clairvoyant diagnoses and alternative therapies by osteopaths, doctors, nurses, and chiropractors. The hospital closed a couple years later due to the Great Depression. Then the Association of Research and Enlightenment began.
I'm just going to say that, I know we're probably getting pretty close to needing to start wrapping up, but I want to say that this chapter, being the last chapter in the book, I thought was such a crescendo for this whole book. The whole book was such a great, great lesson of the occult in America and our history as a country developing what we currently even have with the New Age movement. I mean, there was a lot in the epilogue that talked about all the different
Aquarius Rising, yes,
Aquarius Rising, the Foo
Hollow Earth theory, 1940s,
Admiral Byrd.
And where we're at today with metaphysics and the occult and things like, having life coaches and having hypnotists that can help us with our daily problems. This is all from the birth, from the beginning, gone through with a phenomenal amount of research that Mitch did to put into this book, and
Phenomenal.
And this crescendo of Edgar Cayce at the end was just, to me, like
beautiful.
it was the cherry on top.
It
was bitching.
It was, especially him going into Carlos Castaneda and
Oh, I love Castaneda.
There's so much good stuff in here.
We could not cover it all. That's why I highly recommend you check out Occult America. This is a must-have.
If you haven't been
must-read.
following along with our 2 episodes with what we've talked about, or even if you have, read it again. If you haven't, pick it up and check it out.
He is the Manly P. Hall of our time, dude.
He is literally sitting in Manly P. Hall's. Well, he likes to stand for his lectures and walk around, but the chair, the throne, as we call it, is at the PRS Manly P.
He's
Hall.
done the work, man, and it's interesting to see just all of this. And now I have more rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are so many. I can tell you
Absolutely.
guys, I've been doing this for so long. I don't want to give how old I am, but there's so much stuff in here that I did not know cross-section, like cross each
Now
other.
you got to go back to your.
Now I
your
want to go back.
and
Oh my, yes,
So
my library.
this is the part where we wrap it up, and I want to mention what we're doing here at the Long Beach Cultural Center. We're having a Masonic double feature.
Really?
Yes, with Johnny Royals.
Double feature?
I believe 33 and Beyond.
33 and Beyond and the Illuminated movie.
The true story of the Illuminati.
This is going to sell out, people.
Get your tickets.
Get your
ASAP.
tickets now.
Where can we get our tickets, Mike?
You go to Eventbrite and type in Masonic double feature.
This is
Or
a drive-in, by the way.
lbculturalcenter.com.
There's going to be limited, what is it, like 40,
60.
60 spots
spaces.
limited to this based on what's available for space.
As many as you can fit in your car. That's what you can bring.
Social distancing will
social distancing.
absolutely be.
Masks need to be worn
Yep.
outside of the car.
Yep.
We want to keep it safe for everybody.
Food trucks, music. The music's going to start early.
City's approved it. We're good to go.
Awesome. It is a go.
COVID
and,
compliant.
and Johnny will be here, correct? Of course, John. Q&A with Johnny Royal. So
Awesome.
it's going to be a awesome event for
That
sure.
is awesome. So, any shout outs to anybody that you want to give?
I got shout-outs.
Yeah, go for it, buddy.
I want to give shout-outs to Manly P. Hall,
Yeah.
H.P. Blavatsky, all the people that were in this book. Admiral Byrd for going down to go see this big hole in the earth. Big shout-out to Mitch for writing this book.
That's for sure.
For sure, Mitch. Thank you.
We want to also thank
Sweetwater, Road, and Samson Technologies.
They provide all this awesome equipment that we have here.
Amazing
that I do this
equipment. We can hear each other.
The studio wouldn't be the
So
same.
crisp and
We are
without
so
these
honored
guys.
to have these sponsors, and this studio is rad. We've already gotten comments from some of our crew that just this new studio filming is really, really good. So we hope you all enjoy it as well.
We can't wait to bring you guys more content.
And hopefully, actually, not hopefully, for sure, pretty soon we're going to get back to our regular format as well with doing podcasts and having guests
Having
and
guests on
everything.
board.
Season 2 is what we're going to refer to
coming.
this as. It's the new studio. It's the new way of doing stuff. So
Yes, sir.
we're on it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Like,
you guys.
follow, share. Peace.
Thank you.